nice part about this is I did reach a point where I realized something is so off right now. Like I am drowning in dissonance in multiple areas of my life. I'm tired of this. Like I'm burnt out with feeling this anxiety around food and this preoccupation and binge eating and all of the things. So I found a therapist really serendipitously. I mean, she really just landed in my lap and I love her. I still work with her to this day. And also during that time too, I got really serious about rereading Intuitive Eating, which is the formative book by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And I say reread because I had been very interested in the intuitive eating space for a while, but very triggered by it, especially as a practicing holistic health coach who was very steeped in wellness culture. There's a lot of misinformation out there around to heal binge eating. And there is a lot of really solid information out there to start healing your binge eating. I think that when you are in the mindset of constantly doing and polling everybody else on what you're doing, getting constant feedback and just that uncertainty that you're in, which often correlates with binge eating, it can be really hard to make a decision on how to move forward. So when I was in that space, I was probably reading what I'm about to share on some level, but I didn't want to learn this. It meant like learning this and actually applying it meant that I had to radically shift a lot of my beliefs in a lot of different ways, which was deeply uncomfortable. And so I talk about compassion. One of the fundamental precursors for binge eating is what I like to call complex restriction. Restriction is almost always the driving force of binge eating, but what I think a lot of people miss is the nuances of restriction. So it's not just the amount of food that you're eating that you need to be mindful of when you are trying to really heal binge eating for good too, because I know a lot of people, and I am raising my hand too, think, well, I've struggled with that a little bit before, but I figured it out. If it's still popping up, there is still that pebble in the shoe that needs to be removed. And so that's where we can really dig in and get curious about some of these other complex restrictions that are popping up, or perhaps unresolved root causes that we need to pay attention to. So complex restriction, I break this down into 3 different pillars. So there's the physical around body image education. We have to look at this from a cultural lens, from an environmental lens, from a systemic lens. How has this, who is benefiting from us putting our attention on our bodies? And this is where I can kind of get on my feminist soapbox, where it really is diet culture and patriarchal standards that have coexisted in women prioritizing their bodies and the size of their bodies and fixating on that. What is that taking our power away from as a collective in society, socially and politically? And so I'm a big fan on education and really empowering clients and my community to be informed of where this comes from, because knowledge is power. And when you can start to understand that there's something